Hey guys, this is Coach Chris. Welcome to my channel where we break down international level fights for strategies and tactics that you can use in your own fights. However, due to coronavirus, which we're getting out of soon, we're doing a lot of tutorial based stuff, and so today we're covering checks, motions, and how you can use them and apply them in your game. For those of you who like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. It really helps me out a lot, and we're gonna get started right now. All right, so most of you already know this, but for those of you who don't know, a check, motion, or a fake is something that you can use in the match to kind of disguise what you're going to use next or to fish out what your opponent is sitting on. So for a checker motion, it's really just to simulate aggression, and you want it to look like you're actually going to kick. So what you want to do is first take a look at your full kick. So let's use back leg ground kick, for example. Back leg ground kick looks like that. What you want to do is cut that in half. So this is a full kick, cut it in half, kind of looks like here. Then you cut it in half again, that kind of looks like it's here. You cut it in half, maybe even again, it looks like that. And if you're really experienced at higher level matches, small little motions matter a lot. And so you want to even cut it in half again. So even something just like that. And so you want to use about 1/8 to about 1/16 of your kick. So if you're doing, let's say, a front leg, let's say this is the whole motion for front leg, cut that in half, goes about here, cut that in half, it goes about here, cut that in half, it's like kind of here, even or so right here, and then like 1/16 of that is this. So a fake you could use for your front leg is simply something like that. Now, the key to doing this though is you can't do it slow because that's not simulating kick. Even with your back leg, that's not simulating kick. You want to use it kind of in aggressive motion. So pretend like you're actually going to kick. So if you're bouncing, boom, that could be a fake, or here, boom. Now, depending on the level of your opponent, so if your opponent's really new, you're gonna have to use bigger motions because small motions are things that they're not trained to pick up. But if your opponent's more experienced, small motions like this, that stuff is already giving them intelligence and information, and it's sufficient enough to usually throw off your more advanced opponent because they're so used to seeing big motions that small motions, they're starting to key on the small motions like this, and stuff like that will help you out. So to accentuate this as well, you don't have to use just your foot or just your front foot. You can also use your hands. So one of the ways to do that is, if you're here for your back leg, you can use your hands like that, or front leg, same deal. You can use your hands kind of just as a gesture to add a little bit more movement to your fake. And that should also help give your opponent more visual cues to try and read off of, and hopefully startle them a little bit or get them to fish out what they're sitting on. All right, so there are a couple different ones. Like I showed you guys, there's the back leg, there's a front leg one. You can also, here, there's another one where you widen. So you're here and then you can widen like that. You can do the front leg step. You can practice this out on the mirror. And the best way to do this actually is, one is to practice it with yourself in the mirror, and if you can jig yourself, better. But if you're practicing with your opponent during a drill and you're giving these motions and they're not really reacting, that means your motion just isn't good. So you want to practice with a partner to see if you can genuinely get them surprised when you're about to kick. So if I'm drilling with an opponent and I motion and they actually react or flinch, that's a pretty good motion. If I motion and they don't react, you got to work on your motions a little bit, make them more convincing. Next is for the timing of it. And so you want to make things very sudden. So if I'm relaxed and then I motion fast, that's that's sudden, and it's something that sets off alerts in your opponent's mind, which is what you want to do. But if I'm sitting here, I'm constantly hard motioning, after about 4 or 5 seconds, none of this registers as threat anymore because your mind's picking up on patterns. And so if you're doing that a lot, then your opponent's going to think, well, he's just hard motioning at me, and then they may keep distance and not do anything. So a version, if you want to do something like that, is like hard motion, relax, and then hard motion again. And that might be something you can use to throw off your opponent. So all in all, when you're doing these motions, it has to be sudden, there has to be some kind of break from a pattern to get a response from your opponent. So like I said earlier, there are two kind of main reasons to use this. One is to hide your own aggression, and then two is to fish out something they're sitting on. So the first one, to kind of hide your own aggression, one of the ways to use that is you're gonna relax and then fake, and ideally they either flinch or lift or something like that, and after they flinch or lift, you can go with your back leg or you can go with your front leg, whatever you're playing. So the first way, like I said, is relax, fake, they flinch, and then you can go. The second one is you can use a lot of hard motions, hey, and then you relax, they relax, and then you do. And the whole point of that is because if I'm hard motioning at someone and then they're on guard and then they relax and I relax, then they're not expecting really anything, and then you can go, and that gives you a little bit more time to try and land that attack. So the second way to use fakes is kind of see what they're sitting on. And so one of the ways I do that is I'll be here and then I'll use my front leg to dip into their distance and back. So here, dip, and if they don't take it, then I take the space in the back until they kind of run out of space and they have to either show me what they're sitting on or I'm gonna get too close and I can attack on my own or force them out of bounds. So here, once again, I'll use my front leg to take distance and in and out, see if it's safe. If it's safe, he doesn't move, I pull this back leg up and then same deal. Okay. Kind of like that. And then you kind of keep inching forward until they either show you what they're gonna do or you're close enough to attack and do that. Now when you're doing this, however, if you're taking distance, if they move, you can always just slide back and then reset the distance. But now you know what they're sitting on and they're not as confident throwing it the second time. Now if they're really, really stubborn, they don't want to show you what you're sitting on. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll widen my stance. I'll pull back, so notice that my back leg doesn't actually move. So I'm here, into distance, out of distance, small slide forward and then back. And what that does is it gives, when you're moving your whole body forward, it gives a very aggressive movement. And so that's something you can use to try and thwart them. So once again, here, pull, and then out. And so the whole time you're kind of maintaining safe distance, but you're giving him the impression you're gonna go in to hopefully thwart or have him expose what he's sitting on. The third variation is a little bit more daring, kind of a little more scary. But I've seen a couple of my teammates use this before to very good effect. And what you're essentially doing is you're going to step deep, boom, and then knowing that you're going to pull back. But this aggressive movement here, like let's say the person's standing like on this side, stepping deep into their distance and then back. Usually when people see that, they'll either stand in place because they see you coming forward, or they'll fade back a little bit. So you going in deep and then pulling back keeps you safe, while at the same time exposing what they're sitting on. So once again, it's here, deep and out. All right, the last little part I want to cover are little advantages that you can gain by faking. So one of the things I covered earlier is taking distance. So that as I'm faking and motioning, he's not sure if I'm actually going in, but I'm taking half steps forward and occasionally pulling my back leg back. So that way I'm actually creeping in on him this way while giving offensive pressure and I'm still taking distance. So a lot of benefit in my direction by just taking these small half steps and up. The last thing it helps me do is it helps me cut off actually the 1/8 to 1/16 of the kick that I may actually be doing. So a fake, like I just said, is 1/8 to about 1/16 of your kick. So like if I'm doing this and he doesn't move, then the second time I do this, he doesn't move, I can actually fire from right there. So another variation I use is for my punch. So if I'm motioning this way, I step forward like this for my punch, right? Because you're gonna step forward and punch. So I'll motion this way, boom. And so my body's already kind of primed in this position. I no longer have to do this part to punch because my body's already there and he's no longer reacting. So I'll do this sometimes, nothing. This sometimes, nothing. And then I can punch from there. And it cuts off that first little kind of initial part that some opponents might queue up on. Really quickly, I'd like to thank my editor. His name is Mike. His Instagram is linked down below. Please consider giving him a like, it helps him out. And I also have a Patreon now, so for those of you guys who really enjoy my content, please consider subscribing to me there. I really appreciate it. But that's about it for faking this week, guys. Something you can practice at home, something I hope you guys start to utilize in your games, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more of an understanding as to why or how to do it very effectively. Till then, guys, see you next week.